Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming this evening. It's a great honor and privilege for me to be here this evening speaking with you. And let me explain why I say it's a great privilege and honor. 10 years ago, I was in industry. I did not have a master's degree and I did not have a PhD. And I was just completing 30 years of being in industry. And through a series of unfortunate circumstances, I found myself back in graduate school. And after that, I found myself in the PhD program. So I kind of went this route kicking and screaming, but I'm very happy to be here and very happy to be able to speak with you this evening. The topic that you've heard about in the flyer and the brochure consists of information related to innovation diffusion, and it also involves innovation diffusion in a retail business scenario. Because there's some students here who may have interest in visualization, I also want to provide information on our Avatar project, which is an object that captures big data and changes shape visually. We'll talk about that and I'll go through some slides with you on that. Also tonight, and importantly tonight, the reason I received the PhD was because I was able to, in over 8 years, normally people get their PhD in 3 or 4 years, but it took 8 years to figure out how to take the Huff gravity model, which you all know is a spatial interaction model, and it's the basis of a lot of analysis in the Esri software. How to take that model and bring it from a spatial analytic perspective to a spatial temporal perspective by connecting it with the BAS model. Now you may not know what the BAS model is. The BAS model is a legacy model. It came out about the same time that the Huff model did. But it was written by and developed by Frank Bass from the University of Texas at Dallas. So Huff was at Austin, University of Texas, and Bass was at the University of Texas at Dallas. The Bass model is interesting because it's a temporal model. It produces, through differential calculus, it produces a number of projections over time as to how many people will be interested in buying, or what we say adopting, an innovation. So everything I'm going to speak tonight about assumes that the product or service we're talking about somehow has an innovation in it. And of course, in today's world, most products have some innovation that they're being promoted by. So let me press on. This is a combination of 3 different presentations. So if you see a little format change occasionally, it's because I've wanted to pull the information into one slide presentation. So I don't know if any of you have worked in retail. Actually, I do. One person that I spoke with today did work in retail. Let me just explain at a very, very high level some of the information that's associated with being in the retail business. As Dr. Pick mentioned, when I was at University of California, Irvine, I did a study on home improvement stores from a demographic and geospatial factor basis. And that resulted in an analysis of store-level trade areas and looking at how you can connect the activities inside a store with store displays to actual results in terms of sales activity. This, just so you understand, this is a typical what we call an end cap. You'll see it in a Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever. And in the end cap, you'll sometimes see some really interesting products. This happens to be a special innovative product for windows and doors. So in home improvement, there's basically 3 types of customers, 3 target markets. You have the pro, which are the contractors that drive the trucks and go to Home Depot. You have the do-it-yourselfers, who we've all been those type of customers, arrive on Saturday morning and buy something and then go home and fix it or use it. But the bottom type of customer is a very lucrative type of customer. It's called do-it-for-me. This is the type of customer that's willing to do their roof, do their whole house, do something, some major project through a home improvement store as opposed to hiring a handyman or someone to do it, because they want the protection, they want the risk management feature, being able to deal with a large organization. Because you're an academic group, I'm going to keep it fairly high level and practical, but I also want to let you know some of the link to the literature. Gravity model is something that we use extensively in our innovation diffusion analysis. And this, I mean, it starts with Newton, and it goes through with Riley and Converse. We look at Huff, Black, and some of these others that you probably know, and some of them you may not know. In terms of spatial retail locations, the hoteling, the Herald hoteling model is still a very effective way of looking at how location intelligence and location affects how people buy and interact with the market space. And of course, we're able now with software, thankfully, to be able to do robust spatial regression techniques, and this gives us the ability to understand if there's autocorrelation and other errors that may result. Dr. Pick is one of the authors of some of this material that's very effective at making effective spatial analysis. So let me walk you through a real quick study. This is Orange County, and what we're doing here is we're trying to get an idea for a home improvement area. We're trying to get an idea of what census blocks exist and how the area is made up. So in case you haven't been to Orange County recently, this is the ocean. This is that part of it, and then we're sort of over on the other side of it. So first nice thing you can do with symbology, of course, is find out where the incomes are. And as you would expect along the coast, Newport Beach and other areas, this symbology here shows very definitely through size where the socioeconomic activity is happening. You will note that in the central areas, north, Garden Grove, etc., the income levels are much, much lower than they are along the coast. Now, here is an example of a home improvement store, and here's a number of sites. I think there's 20 sites there. And this is a way of using GIS quickly in a business sense to try to understand how do the stores distance-wise relate to the activities that are going on around them. So here we have a proximity of sales to each store. This doesn't mean, for example, that this sale happened at the nearest store. This sale could have happened over at this store. But we want an idea of where are the people buying, how large are the sales that we're making, or how large are the purchases people are making. And as you can see, along the coast, we have some fairly large purchase activity going on, and we have some fairly small purchase activity going on here, and a heavy concentration of stores. These happen to be Home Depot stores only, no competitors involved in this. And in this slide, we have the opportunity to display the value of sales at each site. So now we are tagging the sites and we're tagging that information. When we combine it, we actually get sales and the value of the displays that are in those particular stores. So this is a very quick way to understand what's happening in terms of cannibalization between same-store organizations, and also to help the marketplace be categorized so that a retailer can find the targets that they're looking for. We use spatial regression, and obviously we use the modeling of this to look for spatial autocorrelation. We use the Kansas model, and it's a very effective way to determine if there's autocorrelation. Of course, from a sales point of view, we want autocorrelation. If we go to a gated community like a golf course and we make a $150,000 sale, we want to go across the street and do the same thing over and over again, all the way up and down those particular places. So autocorrelation is our friend. In this particular case, I ventured out and did a little bit of original research at the master's program, and this is what I'm showing you. They kind of talked about why is it that the further away we go from stores, the higher the value of the sales. And it turns out that there is an anomaly in Orange County that the stores can't be beside, or people don't build $1 million homes beside the home improvement stores. So the Huff model started to break down a little bit, and this was the very beginning. So when I was wondering, do these models actually work? Like, are they something that you can actually plan and bet your business on, if you will? These are some of the pull factors, and I define pull factors as being factors that will create a demand or create affinity between potential customers and stores. So in operations, obviously, the store management have an impact on that, but also the site, the parking lot, the location, demographics, and various other factors. This thinking led into what I'll show you in a moment at the PhD level, which is a deconstruction of the Huff model that lets us get away from talking about demand and attraction and allows us to start talking about affinity and supply. And I'll get back to that. I'll talk about that in a minute. Just to summarize this particular approach, this idea, this original research model, if you will, produced some interesting results. It basically said the further away a customer is, the more valuable they are. So let's revalue that sale. Let's say that a customer that's 10 miles from the store, if they bought $100,000, let's say to us that's worth $120,000. They came across different competitors. The friction and cost of distance was imposed on them, and yet they still came to our store and bought. So this is a small paper, if you will, that's still in the wings, ready to be developed. You may have some ideas. You may be able to extend on it. So as we investigate this, and that was investigated at the master's level, once you get to the PhD level, you start to think, well, gosh, we have all kinds of disciplines. We have all kinds of models, like models laying around. So this is a legacy model that's been around for 50 years. This is another one. Isn't there some way that we could hybrid these models together, or maybe create synergy between these models in ways that we don't know or we're not familiar with? So what we want to do here now, I'm switching out of the previous presentation, and I'm actually going now into the PhD research work. So I'm going to talk to you now about how to connect the Huff model and the Bass model through this Bayesian inferential statistics. And this creates a combination, a hybrid of existing models that have never been connected before. They've never been used before, but they have some very interesting characteristics, and when you put them together, you create new insight, new marketing synergy for people sophisticated enough to use GIS or sophisticated enough to combine GIS with business. In this case, the Huff is started because I'm going to talk about how it's been deconstructed and remodeled to fit into this new environment. I also want to stress as we go through this that I see store-level trade areas as an ecology. I see them as an ecosystem, and specifically because of this new ability to combine these models, I can look at very high resolution at the interactions between processes and see the impact that has over short periods of time. Why would you want to do that? Well, you want to do it because you want to find out how you can interact with the market space and intervene. You see things going off the rails, you can intervene, you can take advantage of opportunities. So this has a very great appeal to large marketers, but it can also be used by single store proprietors. If we frame this in the classic research sense, the general research problem we're looking at is retail trade area analysis, even today, is not standardized. Models are variously treated and variously exercised. Some are dynamic, some are static. The Huff model is a static model. I want to make the Huff model dynamic. Some of these models look at process state and some look at end state. The Huff model is an eventual equilibrium. It doesn't know what's going on in a step-by-step process. Some models are disaggregated and some nodes are aggregated. So for me, that's resolution. I want to be able to zoom out, and I want to be able to zoom down, and I want to be able to take that data and apply it as I see fit for the situation I'm facing. Advanced spatial temporal data requires high resolution spatial temporal hybrid models. So I'm going to show you in a few moments what I mean when I talk about high resolution and low resolution in a somewhat comical way. Here is a map. We all love maps, I hope, if we're in this room. Here's a map of the world. This is a live map that you can actually go on. And as we sit here, the gentleman was telling me about the space station going over and looking down. Pretend you're in the space station and you're looking down. You're looking at 7.6 billion Homo sapiens that are on the planet. That's the high resolution. That's the low resolution. I'm up at a high level. But I want to zoom in. I'm on that planet. Can you see me? Am I there? Oh my goodness, you can. Here I am at the University of Texas in this same website, in this same resolution, except zoomed down. And I've just put the groceries in the back of my car beside this handicap zone, and this is my apartment at UT Dallas. Same time, different resolution, spatial resolution. That's me. Trust me, that's me. So let's get into some conceptual modeling here. We're all academics, or want to be academics in some fashion. So let's talk about a conceptual model so that you can understand what I'm talking about. I developed a simple conceptual model, and I think everybody should be able to understand it. We have a red frame here, and this is that classic VAST model, which basically says, if I start here at this point, and I go through time, over time, my sales activity will increase, and over time, it will eventually decrease with an innovation. If you don't believe me, think about iPhone 4 or iPhone 2. Think about where those sales are today. So this is called, this is a differential equation. And this is called innovation diffusion. So it's a VAST diffusion model. It's very accurate. It actually has been used for color television sales and a lot of different types of products over the last 50 years, and it's very, very accurate. But it's not used today in retail, and it's not used by many folks who are doing anything spatial. The reason is it's a temporal model. It has no idea where these buyers that it's estimating are going to exist in time. It has no idea where they're located. No clue. But if we construct this model in such a way that we connect it with the idea of a VAST model, you know that the VAST model is based on distance, and we call the blue frame in the back of VAST model and stick it back there. All of a sudden we have the VAST model and we have the Huff model on the same diagram. And there is a static connection. Remember that the Huff model, when you do the calculation, ends up being an eventual equilibrium, and this is typically what the Huff model looks like. Lots of customers close to a store, and as you go away, friction, decay, customers fall off. So right at this particular point in here, if the VAST model has fully exhausted itself, the Huff model has gone to its equilibrium, you have the static connection. But that's not very valuable because it's static. I want dynamic. I want to be able to really control this thing. So we'll come back to that in a few minutes. Here are the three parts I want to talk to you about. I want to talk about space. I want to talk about how do I spatialize the VAST. Remember, the VAST is a temporal model. How do I do that for retail innovation and marketers? Time. How do I temporalize the Huff model? The Huff model is a spatial model. It doesn't know anything about time. It just says, eventually, this is what your market will look like. And the treat for the kids in the room is the visualization piece. I think you're going to like this. So let's just real quick look at the VAST model. This is just vanilla standard VAST kind of graph. You have time, you have buyers, they call them adopters, and you have specifically two types of buyers. You'll notice there's a y-intercept here, so you have a group of innovative people who buy instantly as soon as the product's available. If you're thinking about that, you're going, oh, I don't quite understand that. How many times have you seen people camped out on the sidewalk in front of an Apple store waiting for the next morning when they open the doors? Those are innovators. Don't care what it costs. Don't even care if it works. Gotta have it. Just gotta have it. The imitators are the folks who watch what's going on with these innovators, and they eventually come along. I'm an imitator. I don't want to spend money on technology if it's any idea that it's not working. But eventually, I will have an iPhone 4, which I still use, an iPhone 4. So this is how that model works. The important thing to understand is that innovators have such an impact on whether your product is going to be successful, but they die off. It's like nuclear decay. They go off so fast once time starts moving that their impact on the imitators, once we get to here, falls off dramatically. So you're a business person. You look at that and you go, well, how do I maximize innovators getting excited about my product right at point zero and keep that excitement going? You can't if you just use the VAST model because you don't know where they are. Now, there's a classic factory machine defect problem in Bayesian theory. Bayesian theory looks at this and it says, you got a factory. You have a factory in the center. You have machine 1, you have machine 2, you have machine 3. This could be a factory floor. Each machine produces a different quantity of items. Some of those items are defective. And all of that is pulled together and produces all of the items that the factory produces. So what's this got to do with VAST? What's this got to do with a retail location or anything else? What it's got to do is what I said earlier. Take disparate models that you can connect together, put them on the table, just like a puzzle when you were a kid, and see if you can make these pieces fit together. So let's look at this from the point of view of VAST. What if I said the factory is a store? It's a retail store, a home improvement store. And what if I said, you saw those machines? Just pretend those are census blocks. So now I got a store, and I got distance, and I got some census blocks. How am I going to deal with the items produced? Let's call them consumers. Instead of widgets, we'll just say, this machine, the census block, produces 10,000 widgets. Well, let's call them consumers. And then finally, the little thing that turns the switch on is, the little insight is, oh, but the other model had defects in it. And you go, oh, defects. Let's call those the VAST model people that adopt. Let's call those the people we're looking for. This is a quick, I just want to show it to you. It's basically a screen front end to an analysis of type 1, type 2 errors that you get when you do this kind of analysis. It's actually built into the software that we're developing to run this whole analysis. But it's there, you saw it. So you run this by people in business school at UT Dallas, and guys like Brian, professor of marketing, actually a retail specialist, very well-revered professor, goes, what you're trying to do is cool. This paper is really interesting. You get another guy at the UT Dallas Business School, and he goes, hi, Chris. Wow, this is neat. These are guys that use choice models to try to understand what's going on in retailing, and try to understand what's going on in customer choice. Brian Barry, who was a famous geographer, was my chairman for my dissertation. Rand was giving a very, very high-polished presentation at the university, and went through his economic choice models, his operations research models, and everything. And at At the end of the presentation, he said, "Are there any questions?" It was a big audience of professors, president of the university was there. My chairman was sitting beside me. He said, "I have a question." And Ryan said, "Yes, Dr. Berry, what's your question?" Dr. Berry said, "Given that retailers and people in real estate spend so much time on location, and spend so much money on it, how can you put a model up that doesn't have location in it, that doesn't deal with location as what's going to happen with customer choice?" He was not able to answer that question. So you're in the right room if you have respect for the idea of location intelligence. These are the future leaders of the world sitting in this room tonight. Because if you don't understand spatial, you're not going to understand the future. Hey, look at this, back here again. So there's this bumblebee thing hanging down here. Why is this here? Well, I already explained this is the basket. I already said that's the Huff in the back. This floor here is the dynamic area where each BAS period, things are going on, processes are happening. This floor is where I want to get down with magnifying glass, and I want to be able to inspect everything that's going on that floor, because that's where spatial temporal activity is going on. So how do I do that? I gotta come up, I'm a visual kinetic learner and thinker. I gotta come up with some other picture that helps me understand what that's gonna be. So here's a bowling alley. Oof, standard Excel graph, not hard to do. Here's where a store lives, right here. This is time. Here's the store, and this is distance of customers going in this direction. Here's the store. This is the number of customers at each time-space intersection down that bowling alley floor. So now I have 3 dimensions of activity going on, and I'm able to understand what's happening. But remember, we said earlier, excuse me, the St. Anne's means got me all jammed up here, so I apologize for coughing. The Huff model goes, whoop, let's launch, boom, hit the back wall. This is what your market will look like eventually. And I'm saying, oh, no, David, you got to come back up here. I want you to go step, 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 step. Show me what it's here. Show me what it's here. Show me what this line looks like here. It might be this, it might be that. So conceptually, I look at that and I go, okay, I see what I'm trying to do. And then there's this other idea that if this is a bowling alley, let's look at this little sliver between each time zone. Heck, let's go to the sandbox. Here's your distance, just the same as that. And here's this chunk of time, which might be from here to here, for example. Oh, look at this. It actually connects, and it actually fits the Bayes concept of prior, evidence, posterior. Isn't that interesting? I got 3 totally different ideas and models that all of a sudden are starting to come together. It's not working yet. Still messy, but it's starting to come together. This is how research is done. This is how new ideas are evolved. Everybody in this room has the capability to do this. But you don't do it. It's hard. It takes 8 years. So here's our retailer. Tommy, our retailer, he's so happy he doesn't even have socks on. He's sitting in his sandbox and he's going, Dr. Franklin, this is the greatest thing since apple pie. I've got all of this stuff happening in the past time period. I've got my Huff model line going off here. I got my affinity supply, which I'll talk about in a minute. I even have this thing called a Bayes line going on. I've got Euclidean distance. I got all things I'm familiar with, plus all this new stuff I can work with to understand what's going on at each time step in my retail store organization. So he's on his computer doing sandbox calculations, and he's a very happy camper. So let's talk about this for a minute. The Huff model is a GIS model. It's widely used. David Huff was kind enough to see me in 2013 in September at his home. He was not feeling well. I went and talked to him, and I said, Dr. Huff, I'm very happy that you chose to see me. I know you're not well. I have a question. And I said, I want to study to see if the Basmo and the Huffmo can be connected using bays. So I gathered up these little chunks of wood. I feel like somebody was trying to build something and the pieces weren't fitting right. I just laid it all down in his study at his Frank Lloyd Wright home, beautiful home. And he looked down at his desk with his glasses like this, and he frowned. And I sat there and I went, oh my Lord. It took 6 months to finally get in front of him, and I just blew it by asking the most dumb, stupid question that you could ever ask. I thought, oh man, I just wrecked this opportunity. And after a minute or so, he turned around and he looked at me with that frown, and I thought, you want me to go with that door or with this door? How do you want me to get out of here? And he said, Christopher, that's a very ambitious goal, but I think it's doable. So he was thinking about it. So I took that and put it in my bag. I said, okay, I'm going to do this. So these are some of the components. We don't have to go through all this, but this is the turning point. The Huff model doesn't work just out of the box. Sorry. You got to make some changes to it. You got to deconstruct it a little bit. You got to remodel it a little bit. You got to force it to delimit to just each vast period, which means you're creating all these equilibria as opposed to just an eventual equilibrium in a market space. And you got to do something else. That's not. It's a necessary condition, but it's not a sufficient condition. You have to do something else. You have to be at the Jack in the Box at 2 o'clock in the morning because you can't sleep because you're trying to figure this out in Dallas. And all of a sudden you go, oh my Lord. You can't do it by looking at the surface the way David Huff does it. Every surface point has an attraction and a distance to a big shopping center or a little shopping center. You have to turn it around. You have to flip it around. It's not one customer. Am I going to go to that shopping center, that shopping, that shopping? It's, I got to be one store looking at multiple groups of customers. So all of a sudden they go, wait a minute. Back on that other model where I was talking about a factory, defects in machines, isn't that one thing looking out at machines that are at different distances and maybe have different affinity? So all of a sudden you go, okay, I got that part, but how do I deal with this attraction and demand? If I'm standing here in that traditional Huff model, then something over there's got to be bigger than the something over there, which means I'm more attracted to that thing, and it doesn't make any sense. So then you think, oh, this is easy. I'm a store. Maybe I'm a Middle Eastern store in an ethnic community, and I don't have a lot of money, so I don't advertise, but I have really good products. They're really authentic. People start coming to my store. Now I am employing word of mouth, free word of mouth advertising. People are raving about it. And every week, more and more and more people, all kinds of people are coming to my store. I am developing affinity with the market. It's a low voice. It doesn't yell and scream. Demand, Black Friday, attraction, come to my shopping center, come to my mall. It's very low key. It just says, I'm here. I have everything you want. If you want something more, I'll get it. The competitors don't even know what's going on. The grocery stores don't even know it exists. So I went, okay, I think I got this. Get rid of attraction and demand. Let's create this new thing called affinity and supply. Sorry to spend so much time on the slide, but I want you to get the idea of affinity and supply. So So we go through this, we go, okay, so what are the findings so far? Static Huff spatial model, we're successful. We can delimit. I know I can do that. I can refocus. I can reverse the census blocks in one store. I can do all of that. Check the boxes. We're going to town. Here's some feedback. I already told you what he said. September 10th, he passed away the following year. Oh, my Lord, here we are back at this thing again. So, conceptual, spatial, temporal, ecological pathway. So we're developing, again, we're developing this idea. This is what I call the plane of diffusion, trade area, surface, where all the activity is happening. Okay, so now we're starting to come to the fun part. So if we did all of that, talked about all those issues, and you're still with me, now I want to show you something really interesting. If you can get the idea of this thing, and you can hang on to this idea that the store's right there. It's not over there, it's not over here. The store has to be there. I want to take this thing and I just want to turn it around almost like a Mobius loop. And I want to create a circle out of it. Why do I want to do that? Because I want to create a space-time object. I want to create an avatar. Pass it around. So what we have here is a way of taking all of this big data, which inevitably you will get if you start zooming down and looking at small processes in a store trade area. It's a lot like chaos theory. Ed Lorenz figured this out a long time ago. They said in the 1950s, well, we can't weather forecast because we don't have enough data. We can't predict. So the federal government says, okay, well, let's put some satellites in and let's start streaming bits of data at you until you have big data. And they did that. And then Ed Lorenz went, okay, let's try it. They used these simple little linear models and they just kept adding and adding. What was the temperature in Chicago? What was the temperature in New York? What was the barometric pressure here? And at the end of the day, they still couldn't predict the weather. Matter of fact, it was worse than it ever was. Ed Lorenz sat down one day and he said, there's got to be something going on here I don't understand. So he took his model, which he had run the previous day, and he looked at the numbers, and it was like 30 decimal places or something. And so he would, like pi. Who's going to put 30 decimal places in? 3.14 on and on. So he went, okay, so 3.14. He ran his model. That's going to take 5 minutes. So he went and got a copy. He came back at MIT, and he looked at the graph, and he went, this graph doesn't look anything like the graph I created yesterday. And suddenly, after some research, you realize any activity, anything you're studying that has extreme sensitivity to initial conditions, you can't predict it. He didn't put enough decimal places in. So when he went back and put all the decimal places in, he got a similar graph to the other one he had run. He started thinking about something called chaos theory. And I believe chaos theory affects and plays in everything, including retail, triggers. But I'm not going to get into chaos theory tonight. That's above my pay grade. So let's just have a little quick discussion about the visualization piece. This actually is a napkin, a piece of paper. It was on the floor or something. I picked it up. I was in a restaurant in San Diego one night. I said, there's got to be a way to do this. There's got to be a way of being able to create this idea of an avatar. That's the actual sketch. Does it look familiar to anybody? Any geographers in the room know what a polar coordinate system is? See, you can't be a businessman and not know anything about geography. But if you're a geographer and a businessman, you go, well, I know what a polar coordinate system is. Great. Then you know the United Nations emblem of the world and the map is a polar coordinate system. You know that the store is there. And if the store is there, then you know that these concentric circles that are coming out from it are measuring Euclidean distance from the store. And hey, you get another treat here. You also know that if this is 12 and 1 and 2 and 3, all the way around the clock face, you've got time. I got time, I got distance, and if I come up in the vertical, I got my variables. Findings. Epler model successfully captures space-time and unbounded big spatial temporal data. Summary. Integrated space and time, one entry, check. Avatar object, check. Support theoretic, check. Brain science and psychological theories support this and protect it against others who want to throw it away. Easily interpreted feedback. I've shown this to children, and they were able to figure out the model that's being passed around. Be able to figure out what it is. And by the way, if you're looking at it, I don't know where it is now. Who's got it? Okay. If you're looking at it, I should tell you, you're looking at a store, a home improvement store, and you're looking at the number of customers based on the distance from the store, where 1 is January, 2 is February, and figure Christmas sales in, figure April with garden, figure all that, you're looking at it, there's the store. And because it's normalized, I could go to Atlanta to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever and say, by the way, this also is 2,500 stores. This is what your big data looks like. Looks like a Lego that you can play with. Okay. Here's a gentleman we're all familiar with, Jack Dangerman. What does Jack think about this? Christopher, thank you for sharing your work, and wow, the diagrams are really interesting. I pass them on to some of my colleagues, along with your web editors. I wish you luck in your PhD work. Jack's a businessman. Keep us in mind when you graduate. This is not just a guy up waving a wand and doing a little circus act here. These are the key references for everything that I've talked about tonight. I understand eventually this will get on your website, Jim, or something.